So before we start this video, I just want to say thanks to all of you for showing support on the last video. I really appreciate it. It's become the most popular video on the channel, and I absolutely love that all of you enjoyed the video. So I'll be uploading more Walking Dead videos, but I'll still keep Black Ops 6 in the background with some more zombies videos, so don't worry, that's not going away. But we're going to talk about more Walking Dead, since you guys seem to really enjoy the last one I made. So let's get started with this potentially hot take for a video. Is A New Frontier that bad? And honestly, I don't think it is. I don't think it's the worst season, and that's a hot take in itself. But replaying through A New Frontier, I actually really enjoyed the season. Now, it's not hard to see why people don't like it, and I have my fair share of faults with the game as well. I do think that it has some of the worst choices you can make. I think that including Clementine was a big mistake if you want to introduce a new family. And I think that David's conflict with Javier is one of the dumbest I've ever seen. And it's mostly because of episode 4 and 5, which are somehow even worse than season 2, if you can believe it. So there's a lot of faults there, and I don't blame people for not liking the game. But A New Frontier, I think, is interesting in that it's the only game in the series that's really focused on a family. Family. Now, I know season 2 kind of tried to do that. Season 4 is a little bit trying to be like a family sort of thing. Not really, though. I think season 3 is the only one where it's outright stating, this is our family, we need to protect it. And that's what I really like about it, because I know a ton of families like this. I think it's the most relatable group, if you want to call it, out of all the games, because this one I could actually see happening. But of course, it's not just that. It's the writing, it's the pacing, and all of the issues with the characters, particularly regarding Kate, and Kate's character being pretty much a mistress. It's definitely the worst thing about the season, is what I'll say. I know a lot of people don't like the character, including myself. And actually, when I did my replay through, apparently Kate was the least chosen for survival. I had my David and my Gabe survive, and Kate died. And that was the majority on that one, apparently. So you guys let me know which ending you picked. But for me, I had David alive and Gabe alive. As much as they can be pricks, I do think I like the family aspect of that more. But that's a good thing, I think, about this game, is that you care to grow about the family more than anything else, which is, you know, the big message of A New Frontier. But it gets messy because, of course, you have Clementine in there too, and Clementine we've grown up with for 2 games now, and then they expect us to choose someone else over her, choose Conrad, choose The New Frontier, choose other people over her. Of course you're not going to do that. That's the big flaw. Now, is this game ruining? Not necessarily, but it definitely turns me away from playing it as often as I should, especially considering you're coming off season 2, which was the darkest season, even with all 4 in mind, and even with my video on the cut content. Season 2 is still the darkest and has a lot of pathways you can choose. So coming off that to a family aspect with Clementine in it, you're kind of being forced to split between, do I want to play Clementine or do I want to play with this new family? Except, of course, the new family you're constantly exposed to and trying to get attached with. So you got a lot of bad pacing issues right off the bat. A lot of these things don't seem like a big deal. I don't think they're a big deal initially, but they start to pile up. And you soon realize that A New Frontier is just a weird middle child. It's trying to be its own game. It's trying to connect to the previous seasons, and ultimately it would have fared off as an independent game. Just call it The Walking Dead: A New Frontier. Don't include Clementine, or if you're going to include Clementine, have her as a cameo. Do not have her as a main character, because then it makes it too hard to make actual choices. So that's a lot of problems solved. But is it that much worse than the other seasons though? I don't think so. I honestly think it might be better than the final season. I know I'm going to get hate for that one. But the final season, I think, is way more messier. And, of course, there's behind-the-scenes development reasons as to why. But even with that in mind, I still think the family aspect and just the entire theme of Season 3 fits better than what the final season was trying to go for. And even though I've replayed it and I actually do like it a bit more, the characters are still the lacking aspect of these games. This is more of an overreaching issue. This isn't just exclusive to A New Frontier or the final season. Just the side characters Telltale can't seem to make work. There's always the asshole. There's always the character who you're going to have to disagree with. There's always someone who could be your friend, but probably not. There's always the character who's a romance interest, but they are tied in so poorly that why would you want to be their romance interest? Like Eleanor, for example, or Kate, both from A New Frontier, and they both just are unbearable. They commit the most heinous things towards episode 3, 4, and 5. Why would you want to be with them? If you get what I'm saying, a lot of the characters just feel like they're being written for one purpose. They're shallow, they don't have a lot of personality, which thankfully the final season fixes. Lewis and the rest of the Ericksons do have more personality. That's a good bonus. But unfortunately, A New Frontier doesn't have this. A New Frontier, the characters are way, way more shallow, at least for the side characters, right? Not the main cast, not Javier, who's really funny, or David, who's really complex, or even Clementine to an extent, even though she's definitely haphazardly written. She is not written well in this game, I will tell you that. I will say that I think she got done dirty in this game. I definitely think she should have been written way better than the way she was written. But if you want to ignore her for the express purposes of the game, I don't blame you. But she's shoved in there so close to you, and yet you're expected to like the family more. You're expected to like Javier more. You're expected to like this conflict with David and the New Frontier and the Garcia family more when you have Clementine in there. It's impossible. It's hard. And that's where it stumbles, because ultimately when I'm playing The Walking Dead, I care about Clementine, of course. And the Garcia family, I grew to care about too. But ultimately I had to make my choices based on what Clementine wanted, which sucks, because that means that I can't really play as an independent family. I have to play as Clementine while not controlling her. Which worked in the final season because AJ is essentially the next generation, so playing as him towards the end of the game, that made sense. I'm fine with that. Or in the first season where you play as Lee and Clementine will be your moral compass, that works because she's your moral compass. She's supposed to be the one you have to think about when you're going to commit a choice. But in the third season, A New Frontier, she's not just more of a moral compass, she's more of a, if you don't do this choice, I'll hate you. If you don't do this choice, I'll shoot you on the spot. You know, a lot of her character is definitely brutalized to such an extent that I wonder if she's the same person. A lot of the time I ask, is Clementine the same character? Is she the same person that I played with in season 2? Is she the same, is she the same from season 2 or season 1? And the answer is obviously no. And of course characters grow and she grows to become more mature, which is of course fine. I'm glad to see her back, and I'm glad to see her being able to self-defend herself. But wouldn't it made more sense, have been more impactful, if they made it so that she appeared towards the end of the game, or she was a cameo who was taking care of herself with Kenny, or, Wellington? Why do those endings have to suffer so that she's in the game? The fact that they shove her in here is the biggest stumble of the game by far, and I definitely think that without her, you could have had a good season, a great season even. But ultimately, it is Clementine herself, her inclusion, that makes the season worse. So, yes, A New Frontier is probably the worst season, even though I personally don't think so. As a season for The Walking Dead, with Clementine, with AJ, with the entire characters, it is the worst only because it stumbles at what it tries to do as thematically and as a sequel. So it does stumble, it almost fails. But I think it picks itself back up, and I think that the whole theme with the game, the characters, at least in the Garcia family, are great, aside from Kate, of course. And David is very, very complex. So you have complex characters, you have a great cast overall, but a lot of them are just written to be as obnoxious as possible, and it makes it hard to gather anything in the final episodes other than, okay, I don't like them, and let's move on, because we're not going to see them again. And we still haven't seen them again, so it makes those characters ultimately pointless and shallow, and it stumbles, it fumbles as a sequel. But if it was independent, I think it would have been a great game on its own. So The Final Frontier is fine. It's a great game, I think, but as its own game, as a sequel, it just stumbles and fails, and I wish it would have been a spin-off game and not a mainline title. So those are my thoughts. I don't think it's the worst game of the 4 games. I was going to say trilogy there. It's not the worst game of there, but it certainly is the worst thematically and the worst sequel of the entire series. So those are my thoughts, but let me know in the comments what you think of the season. Did you hate it, or did you like it like I do? Let me know in the comments below. Did your thoughts change on it? Also let me know in the comments below. Thank you guys for watching. If you enjoyed, hit that like button and subscribe. We are so close to 500 Dark Operators, so I appreciate the constant support, and hopefully we'll hit 500 someday. But thank you guys so much for watching. I'll see you guys in the next one. This is Dark Ops signing off.